subject matter expertise on what we're going to be talking about, which is data is the new fuel. And so I'm going to be joined by, I want to make sure I get this right, Andrew Menditch.
Menditch, yes. Andrew Menditch.
I think I have it right.
Yes.
I'm kidding. Andrew Menditch, he's the National Enterprise Account Director at Automotive Mastermind. Anybody use know Automotive Mastermind? Spectacular solution, right? Wait, how long have you worked for Mastermind? We know what's going on. Not our first rodeo. But it is a spectacular product. Marco Schnabel, I know Marco well, and just created a product that was really transformative. And really a product that I think was the first, quite possibly, Brian, you could probably speak to that, but probably the first that really handled data and used data in that particular way to allow us to see clients differently. You agree, Greg?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I've also have Brian Feely. Don't get excited, Gray. I'll call you. He's super excited, like he thinks it's karaoke night or something. I got Brian Feely. Brian's the marketing director for a small upstart called Holman. So Holman is a remarkable organization. How many dealerships do you guys have now? 40?
60 plus and 34 brands.
60 and 34 brands. What do you do with your free time, Brian?
2 little kids, there is no free time.
Oh my gosh, I know the drill well. And Holman is really a remarkable organization. I was fortunate enough to have an opportunity to work with them because they've been using my reporting platform. Can't say mine anymore. I sold it to Reynolds. But just an incredible organization that's always on the leading edge. And so I'm excited to hear your thoughts, Brian, on what we're going to be talking about. And then I've got Gray Scott. And Gray is a founding member of Auto Genius. And Gray is a highly respected marketer in technology. When did you write this?
I didn't.
You believe this guy?
Yeah. I'm also the VP of marketing.
Gray is an incredibly handsome, well thought of, highly respected marketer and technologist in the automotive dealership space. And that's true. He's very respected. And Gray has always been, you've always been somebody that I think one of the greatest superpowers, guys, is curiosity. Do you agree with that? You know what's cool about curiosity? You can't be simultaneously curious and arrogant, right? There are no curious people that are arrogant, right? Curious people want to learn. And everybody here, one thing I think you guys have as a common thread, or you're all remarkably curious people. I know personally that you've always been that. That's what keeps you on the leading edge. So why don't we start actually right there?
Let me pause for a minute, Dave, just
I don't want
to get
to.
a little background.
Okay, go ahead.
The curiosity is what's fueling, even in this conversation with Ultimate Toys, as their VP of marketing. You know, we sell high-end Sprinter conversion vans, 165 to 240. So when we talk about curiosity and data, it's really exciting to dive into, because that's what I have to use.
Yeah, but you didn't pay for a marketing spot, so.
Oh, yeah, well, no.
I'm kidding. It's a
So let's
great
get
guy.
into the data.
He's a great guy, but you know, we've gotten to the point, guys, where data is everywhere. It's everywhere. And we've gotten to a, in my opinion, I'd like to start with this, a tipping point, I think, with dealerships, with our tech stacks. Do you agree? Our tech stacks, the average dealership is 12, 15 logins or more. And the dealer or the GM or whoever makes the decision to buy that product has clear expectations for an ROI. But yet we've gotten to the point where you have all these disparate systems that are all blowing out data in their own, right? And they can't be leveraged against each other, or they haven't been able to be leveraged against each other until fairly recently. So I want to start there. How do you guys manage and navigate all of the data that is being proliferated from your dealership, from your perspective, Brian? And then I want to go to you to talk about what you've done at Mastermind, what Mastermind has done to really help dealers transform that situation and be able to go from having all of this data everywhere to being able to leverage it. So Brian, would you mind starting?
Yeah, that's a big question. So I think it actually starts with sort of a shift in our organizational perspective. I would say traditionally we think about a rooftop-centric approach, meaning dealership A has a population of customers and dealership B has a population of customers and there's some overlap in there. We're we're shifting our viewpoint on that to look at it from a customer-centric perspective, meaning that customer's relationship with Holman is now at the Holman level and not at the dealership level. And so when you talk about the organization of data and all these systems, the big piece for us is how do we get all of that data associated with a unique customer record that exists at the Holman level? The short answer is a CDP. It's a big, complicated process. Heard from Ryan this morning on how arduous it's been. I would say, my dream state is I have one unique ID for one individual, and that record is a mile wide, and every column and every field has a value in it, and every field has a value in it that's correct. And so I think that's where you start, is this organization of data, the right perspective, getting it all in one place from all the right systems.
And before I jump forward, because I think it's important to continue this thought, all of that sounds hard.
Incredibly hard.
Incredibly
Yes,
onerous,
expensive and
arduous,
time-consuming.
tough to do, but worth it.
I think time will tell, but yes, we believe it's worth it.
Okay. And then if you wouldn't mind just sharing from your perspective, from a Mastermind perspective, because you guys, how long has Mastermind been around now?
Oh man, I want to say we started in 2013, but I'll be corrected by people in the audience if I'm wrong. 13 years.
13 years. Okay. So 13 years. It's amazing. It feels like literally a blip. I remember meeting Marco in New York when he was starting out. And it's had such an incredible run. What has changed with Mastermind? How do you continue to reinvent as data continues to evolve, become more available, and continues to proliferate? By the way, it took 70 years of computers, 70 years to get to the point where we were about 10 years ago. Within 2 years, it doubled. And now we're doubling at a rate on an annual basis. It's incredible. So what have you done to keep up and evolve and iterate?
Yeah, so the foundation of Mastermind has always been looking at your loyalty clients and understanding what the right replacement vehicle is for them, what the right deal is for them, when are they ready, which is the biggest thing, right? The behavior prediction. And so to do that and to do that right, you must have data. And more importantly, you must have data science. And so for our core business, which is the loyalty retention, and certainly with Conquest now as well, in order to serve up those relevant upgrade replacement offers, we needed to be ingesting all of the latest incentive information from the manufacturers. We needed to know what tier 1 was for the interest rates. We needed to know if people still had the car, right? That's important. Are they alive, right? So, literally. And if you think... Right. and Brian can attest to this. Part of the challenge when you're talking about bringing all of this data together is when was that transaction record that you've brought into the CDP? How old is it? And is it the most relevant information that you can actually activate? And so, in Mastermind, in order to deliver our core solution here, the core offering, we've got to go through a heck of a lot of hygiene processes. We need to make sure that they still have the car, that they're still alive, that they still live at that address, that that's the right email, that's the right phone number, et cetera. In order to deliver on our promise to our partners, we have to do that. And as this space has been evolving into CDPs and leveraging data, we had kind of a realization that we are already operating these cleansing and hygiene processes that are necessary for an environment like this to be actionable. And so it was a natural extension for us to look at partners like Holman and say, how do we do this? How do we do this together? And one of the flagships here is that data yesterday is outdated. Think about that. It's outdated if you got it yesterday, because they may have traded that car in, they may have bought something else. They did a mileage read based on their service visit.
They moved, they relocated, their job changed. Yes. So
it's not a one-time thing. It's a recurring process that needs to happen in an automated fashion. And that, so anyway, I could talk about this for a long time, but that might be a good segue back to Brian. Or
I can't let you do that. But I personally would love it because I geek out on this stuff. And I geek out on it because it's one of those things that, whether we realize it or not, the people that we're competing with, think about this, Ray, I'll go to you on this. But if you don't, is this true? If you don't win online, you don't win in the showroom. True?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So, and there are companies out there that right now every day, every week, they are making literally quantum leaps, right, Brian? Quantum leaps in their understanding of data and how to leverage data, how to conduct hygiene on data, proper hygiene on data, and so forth. Gray, I have a question for you. So Holman is a tremendous organization, iconic, legendary organization, tremendous resources, right? And great people that really know what they're doing. What if I'm a small store, an independent store, I'm a single point, I've got one franchise, or I'm a small group? Can I compete in 2025 and beyond with the disruptors like Carvana and CarMax? Can I compete with others in my marketplace?
The answer is yes and no, right? It really depends. That's a loaded question. I believe you can compete, but whether you're large or small, the conversation's about data and it's about systems. And if, no matter whether you're a single, double, triple, 5, 10, 55, or 100 roof group, you have to have the right system. And in that system, you're going to have multiple feeds into that system that's going to provide you everything that's been talked about: identity resolution, contact cleansing, appending, communications, scoring, the whole nine, right? So whether you're a small guy or a large guy, it's finding the right system that works for you. I'm just gonna bring it to me. Very small, recently joined this group, Ultimate Toys. We sell high-end conversion vans. I am not a mass audience marketing solution. We cannot hit the broad target of, I want people shopping for Sprinter vans. So what I do is I've taken an IDR, I have that on my site, I resolve that data, I feed it into a system that then takes that data, takes it into another system, and then into the CRM, that we can action out those pieces of information. So I think the small guys can absolutely compete with the big boys if you've got the right systems and partners in place.
Gray, do you think it's fair to say that there's almost an advantage to being small? Like in some ways, right? Like clearly there's scale.
In terms of agility?
In terms of agility.
Yeah, there is.
Candidly, we're big and slow sometimes, and we've got things that are in place for all the right reasons that have made this CDP project really, really hard.
Yeah, so it is. You can be really quick and nimble. So like, let's say I was in your backyard and you had 3 stores around me, different brands, and I'm like, man, they're really dropping the ball here. Like, I see an opportunity for me to make that change really quickly, capitalize on that hole and fill it. By the time you finally get to do it and go through the chains of command within your operation, I can be far more nimble quick.
I'll ask this of any of you, and I love that you are jumping on each other's conversation.
Sorry, I know that's your job.
No, you keep doing that. I want to turn this into a whole Maury Povich kind of a vibe. No, you are the father. We're going to edit that out. Is AI, sounds crazy, but is it simultaneously perhaps overblown and underestimated?
That's like my baby, right? AI, having been using it in auto retail for as long as I have, since 17, in different formats, intelligent agents. It is overblown in certain aspects, but it's an absolute essential to survive today.
It's no longer optional.
It's not an option. You have to have something, whether it's operational for efficiency on the backside, whether it's using it to create that golden record that you then have all the information, workflows, communications, call handling. Dealers who are closed on a Sunday, David, who handles those opportunities? Right, so it's almost like you have to have it, but the key is going to go back to why are we all sitting here, is to network and to educate, and you have to educate yourself on AI, what kind of AI is out there, who's using agentic AI, and what powers their AI. And there's a lot of smoke and mirrors in that, and once you become educated on that, it's a matter of just selecting the best that suits your needs.
Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I actually spoke on this in an NADA panel a month or so ago. And the way that I think about AI is, and this has been talked about already, this conference, but it's about efficiency for that salesperson, for that service manager, for that operator. That's kind of how we see it. When appropriate, I would love to talk about exactly how we're powering Holman CDP.
Now.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so and
Thank God I was here.
I'm gonna pop a slide up here in a second, and we're gonna talk about it. But before I do, I just want to kind of position something really quickly. Rightfully so, there's been lots of discussions about CDP. It's one of those buzzwords, and it's been a buzzword for a while. There's this. I think that there's a complication that people are doing. They're making it more complicated than it actually is, right? It is essentially a container, as Gray was saying, to ingest all of your data sources from everywhere and to centralize it, to unify it, to apply identity resolution to it. And then, and I've heard some other panels that were great, where they were talking about, well, how do we activate from there? What do we do from there? And there's a lot of talk, and this is not a knock, I think this is essential, you need to do this, into looking into signals, meaning website behavior, who's engaging with a particular VDP, who's engaging with digital retailing, and then initiating campaigns off of that. What I want to kind of talk about today, and certainly have Brian get into in more detail and how they're using it, is the segmentation piece, the data science piece. That's an aspect of this that I have not heard a lot of people talk about. I haven't heard everybody, so forgive me if it has been discussed. But I just want you to imagine now that you have this golden record, okay? And it's been cleansed, it's been hygienated, right? You've already, you've already removed everybody that you need removed and made your updates. And certainly you're gonna look at website behavior and send marketing based off that. You're gonna do those things. But what else can you do with that golden record? Your mind's gonna start to go, right? I mean, Brian, we talked about how this is a creative process, haven't we?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, and so maybe you're gonna look at that record and you're gonna say, okay, I have a high day supply in Accords, whatever, at this store. I have an incentive over here at that store. What campaigns can I put together, build a query around this golden record to make it work? Well, you're gonna probably start, that is actually data science. You just haven't realized it. You started to engage in it. And so the missing piece, the missing component is that. Be able to predict and be able to segment your audience based on attributes. So here's kind of what I mean. See if this clicker works for me. There we go. Right, I don't mean to stand, I can see it here. But so that graphic there is really just showing us all of the siloed information, right, from third parties, from everywhere, bringing it into one spot, right? Let me see if we got another one going here. All right, these aren't my slides, so I'm just gonna talk through it because it'll work. Doesn't matter, we're good. All right, so here's my point. So now you have this golden record, you've brought it all together, and now you want to say, well, I'll give you the most obvious use case. Who's coming up on their lease soon, right? Let's talk to those people. Let's talk about another use case. Who's over miles on their lease? Who can lower their payment? Who has positive equity? Who can get a lower interest rate? Who has a private incentive from Audi? Right? Are your heads spinning right now a little bit? How about if you have no particular used car in stock, like a certain model year, model trim, whatever, mileage? Who has that car, right? Where I have a replacement that makes sense for them. And then as you start to ideate on all of these things, you really are building cohorts or different segments that you can approach in a really targeted way with a really tailored message. And going back to what Brian was saying earlier about a customer-centric view, having a hyper-targeted message that's tailored to that customer's actual situation, do you think those KPIs are going to improve? How's the customer experience, too, while we're at it?
Yeah, I mean, it's customer experience, and I'll go back to what Steve said in his keynote this morning, is his last slide around lifetime value. Like, that's where our head's at. Like, it's about how do we retain and how do we generate additional incremental lifetime value from our customers.
It's funny you bring that up because there's Carl Sewell out of Texas, the absolutely legendary dealer, right? Customers for Life. That book, you could buy it today, it's still applicable. But one of the things he touches on in there was the $517,000 customer. Literally says $517,000. He came up with that by looking at the average number of cars. When you treat clients right, you look at the recurring sales, and you multiply that plus the service, it came out to 517. Now, somebody recently updated that, and not surprisingly, it's up over $800,000. I mean, those are some high stakes, right? But a question arises also is that this data is everywhere. So job one is I do have to hygienate it. I do need to be able to leverage it somehow. But I also have to figure out, you said something, Andrew, I have to know how to properly activate it. I don't have data scientists in my dealership. I don't have analysts in my store. I don't have prompt engineers in my store. Brian, how do you take that on?
Yeah, so I think the first step, and you touched on this, but it's getting the data organized in the right place, because if you don't do that first, the rest is meaningless, right? You could have the best AI in the world.
It's got to be clean.
If your data is junk, and for us, it's really, really important that a message that goes to a customer is right. Mm-hmm. So we're more in the camp of let's do it right, not let's do it fast. But I'll speak to sort of where AI fits in our organization, at least on my team. And by far, we are not the experts necessarily in the room. But speaking to the prevalence and the fact that it is required, not optional, to participate here, we're doing two things right now. One is in the Gen AI space, we're using it for content development. Like you think about a CRM journey, you've got dozens of audiences, dozens of campaigns, dozens of assets that are required. You're talking about thousands now of emails and everything else. We're able to plug people into roles that are now generating this content rapidly, efficiently, at a high quality. But to your question on sort of data science and how do we analyze that, we're doing the same thing. We're using AI to help us craft audiences. We're using AI to load in our data sets, not our data sets necessarily, but the labels of our data sets, the types of data sets we have, and have that generate opportunities for us. Interesting audiences, as we call them. So Andrew gave a bunch of highly mastermind-centric audiences. But it's super interesting when you take some of the mastermind stuff and you line it up against declined services. And I've got somebody that had a big bill in service 2 months ago, and they're a 85 plus BPS and they're over miles on a lease. Like those audiences become really, really interesting to us. And so we're using AI to help us craft those and ideate. The human in the loop for us is still super, super important because there's context that's really important. But that's how we're plugged into it today.
You know, Gray, I'm going to jump over to you, and thank you, Brian. So you hear AI. I was joking during NADA that they should actually just change the name to NADA.ai. Let's just get it over with, right? Because it's AI ad nauseum, right? I want to literally say, I'm going to go over and meet Brian.ai. I'm going to go grab a coffee.ai. But not all AI is the same. Not all AI is the same. I mean, you know, agentic, you've got generative, you got machine learning, and then the sources are not the same. The data sources are critical. How you leverage is critical. You know, you've got a gazillion companies right now leveraging ChatGPT-4. Well, if you're all leveraging the same thing, right, there's a point of diminishing return. But if you start layering on top of that ChatGPT-4, ingesting your own data, oh yeah, as you could clearly see by this easy to follow chart, you just stack all the things in the garage and then you start selling cars. It's amazing. But Gray, how do you handle that? I mean, we talked about how does the single point store do this? And you got to go out and get experts. You got to get great partners, you know, like Andrew at Mastermind and companies that absolutely know what they're doing. But could you just touch for everybody here a little bit about the different types of AI, where they're applicable, why it matters?
Well, sure. Let's just take the subject matter at hand with Automotive Mastermind is you want machine learning. You want it to learn and get smarter as time goes on. GPT-4 is not machine learning. It is generative AI. It is limited in scope. It is limited in the lane of which it can travel, and it is limited by the data sets that are input to it. And so if you take ChatGPT-4 out of the box without any guardrails, it has a very broad context. Now you take that on top of other data sets like your CDP or a Mastermind platform or any of the other systems you decide to put in, it now becomes more narrow scope within that data set. And so it stays within those lines. How do you kind of do that as a dealer and figure out what's what? Is you just have to ask the right questions. How is your AI stack, just like your tech stack? What's powering it? I don't need the secret juice, but talk to me about all the layers. And the way I like to describe it is a turkey sandwich, and if you're vegetarian, a tomato sandwich will fill you. It'll be just fine. But who wants a boring turkey sandwich or a tomato sandwich and you have the whole club sandwich or the entire salad between two slices?
Maybe a Hot Pocket.
Whatever. The whole idea is that, do you want an empty Hot Pocket, David, or do you want one that's like bursting at the seams, right? So when you're looking at the AI, the more singular it is and the more horizontal it is, I'd probably run away. You're looking for vertically stacked AI systems. And ideally, if you're looking at systems as we're talking about here with data, is you're looking for something that's going to be here in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5, and ideally maybe 10. By 10, they'll be acquired somewhere. But you're looking for that long haul provider that offers that machine learning, because over that 1, 2, 3, and 5 year course in your dealership, in your group, in your operation, small or large, it's going to adapt to you, right? So you just have to, it boils down to asking the right questions.
Love it. Andrew, what's next? When it comes to data being the new fuel, and I think, Brian, you hit it on the head. I mean, you have to start there. It's the alpha and the omega is your data. If it's not clean, I mean, you think right now, how many vendors you might have in your stores right now that are pulling data and proliferating offers out to your clients. And none of those offers, I've seen 8 different offers from one store Same car, same model, different price, different payment. And you think about the confusion that causes, the friction it causes, the frustration it causes. So what's next? Are we getting to the point, Andrew, with what you're doing and how we can use data to where we can eliminate that from being a big frustration point?
Yeah, so where we are now, when I think about CDPs in this industry, is everybody is kind of at the let's figuring it out stage, right? I mean, yes, of course, there are players that have already begun. Typically, they're the bigger ones. Everybody's kind of trying to find out what's happening. And so once they kind of move into a direction and they start to collect their data in one spot, then what will happen is they're going to say, we need to clean this, and they're going to be looking for vendors to do that. That's pretty much commoditized, honestly, it really is. And then once they have that, as I was saying before, they're going to say, well, now what do I do with this data set? How do I leverage this? And so, there's an engine like Mastermind that has the ability to apply the data science to it. It's what we do. And to give you all of the singular attributes for you to kind of stack together to build those audiences. And when that is supplements what Brian was talking about with the AI, you're now applying the machine learning that Gray was talking about to these data sets, to the behavior prediction. Who should we be speaking to and why? What is the message that should go out there? And all of that gets wrapped up into queries, really, building audiences. Let's grab this, let's grab this, let's grab this, message here, message there, all highly resonate. And it's an iterative thing. What we have today and the engine that's powering it will only get stronger and will only become more broad. So to answer your question, what's next? More data science, better predictions, better ability to slice and dice your audiences to what your business needs are, and then to activate based on that. You're reducing waste because we've removed people that don't own cars. We're reducing waste because we're not sending letters to people that don't live there anymore. And we're being more effective because we're delivering a better customer experience that's tailored to their situation.
And Brian, if you don't mind jumping onto that point, because everything Andrew said, I agree with 100%. But at that point, you still have to end up figuring out a way to do all of this in a way that's compelling and that resonates and that's authentic to a client. What's the challenges there, and what's next with regards to that?
I think there's two pieces that maybe bookend what Andrew was describing. One is further upstream, and I alluded to this rooftop-centric versus customer-centric point of view for us. That has a lot to do with upstream tech stack standardization, which helps reinforce the right data and get all that stuff in the right place and the taxonomy's right and everything else. For us as a big dealer group, that's a really hard thing to do. But it matters. And then the other side of the bookend is on the execution point, David, which is what you're talking about. We're still marketers. Like at the end of the day, this is still about connecting with the customer. So the data is great. The AI, that's cool. That's all fancy. That is really awesome. But if we deliver a message to a customer and it looks like crap, like it still is going to fall flat. And so there is still this very human creative element where the messaging matters, the look and the feel matter, like all of that still matter. And so the CDP is awesome. We think about, I talk about CRM as a marketing function, not as a tool, but as a marketing function. At the core of our CRM marketing function is our CDP. But around that is stuff like strategy and people and resources and creative development and all of that stuff that still has to go into really high quality marketing because that's still what we're doing. So the message and the creative still matters. Execution and the data science and that is all awesome. But if it falls flat at the very end, why the hell do we do it in the first place?
I agree. You brought up DMS systems, and we've had some DMS systems that have been around a while. It's an understatement. And when I see some of the, I'm going to have you jump onto this, Greg, because you're willing to be audacious and controversial. But when I see some of the DMSs trying to you talked about it, trying to figure it out. What do we do with this? How do we get, we got to get involved with this. I kind of feel like it's a little analogous to me walking around using terms like lit and cooked. And I was total fire last night, which, by the way, I was total fire last night. But you know what I mean? It's just like you're trying to fit in. They're trying to say, okay, we have this, but you have old architecture. Let's face it, you have very old architecture that things are built on, right? And is the DMS going to become more and more of a tipping point as we move forward in order to be able to be agile, whether you're the size of a Holman or a small dealer?
I think it's more of they need to stay in their lane that's what their specialty is, and then open up the access points for the others who specialize in everything else. So if you have a medical condition, you're not going to the general practice physician to work on your heart. You're going to a specialist. And this is where they need to, everybody wants every piece of the pie. But, with a student, you can do it all, but you can't be a master of one, right? So be the master of what you are, which is a DMS. You're a data warehouse of that information. Allow the inner and exit access to the APIs. And at the end of the day, large, small, the fees add up. And that's where people get burned, right? And so you have these other players coming out, high fees up front, and then very low monthly costs with open API access. And it's all based in the cloud, so you have the easy data exchange. I think the real solution here is that DMS companies need to stay in their lane, open their doors, be more friendly, and allow the other specialists into the playground.
Andrew, thank you. I think you absolutely nailed that. Thanks so much. Andrew, easier said than done, right? I mean, we're quite possibly the only industry out there that operates on a closed API basis. And closed APIs stifle innovation. They do. They stifle access, right? You're paying for your own data. It's like can you imagine Microsoft? You get a call from Microsoft one day and they say, hey, you've been using Excel for 10 years. All those spreadsheets are ours, right? It's preposterous. But that's the world we live in. So how do you deal with that? And is what we're talking about in terms of data the new fuel, CDPs, things that you're doing, do you think that's going to ultimately play a role in allowing us to finally break away from that and join the rest of the world in being an open API environment?
Yeah, so I believe that there will be new ways to access your DMS data, not necessarily through the traditional integration methodologies. So there's going to be different ways of accessing that data, and they're going to reach a tipping point where they can no longer control access to it. And the market pressure with new players coming in that space will add to it. So I think that there will be a tipping point, since you've used that term, for DMX data access.
Brian, if you wouldn't mind launching us into the speed round. No pressure.
Okay.
This is cool. It's kind of the dating game again, right? Da-da-da-da-da-da. I think he has a chance. This isn't awkward at all. Brian.
Yes.
If you were to tell the group out here of dealers, innovators, technologists, just tell me three things that everybody, honestly, when you get home, do this. And it could be doing an audit on your tech stack. It could be, hygienating your data. It could be what would you say, if you had to start right now and you wanted to leverage, data as the new fuel, and you walked into a situation, what would be the first two or three things you would recommend doing?
So you actually said this, but the first thing is start. For a long time, we just didn't start.
So if you're overwhelmed, get over it.
If you're overwhelmed, yeah, but one step at a time. I'll take 2 seconds to describe our CDP journey. And it starts with, we got to get the DMS connected. And we got to get the CRM system connected. But then there's this long tail of other stuff that just makes it better and better and better. So start. If it's too daunting, if it's too scary and you haven't started yet, and I know a lot of you have, and you're probably way further along than we are, but if you haven't started, start. The second piece is, as we've progressed, if you're not thoughtful about how you move along, the scale starts to crush you. And what I mean by that is you're talking about all these different data sources, and you're talking about data definitions and taxonomies and organization and all this stuff, and it's a lot. And so for us, our perspective is it's worth taking some time up front to get things like governance and organization and those things right, so that when we know, hey, this campaign goes to this trigger and that trigger is well defined and we have the right documentation in place, that we have reference points. So along that journey, once you start, just go slow enough that you aren't running and gunning and you're staying organized and you're doing all those things. Number 3 for me is about people, and it's about making sure that we're putting the right people in the right roles to support these things. And these aren't roles, I think somebody made the point earlier, that we've traditionally had in the dealership environment, prompt engineers and AI specialists or whatever. So we've done a lot of things on our team to put the right resources in the right place, and that might be training and education, whatever else. Or it might be restructuring, going and getting some outside help to help us get started. So start, stay organized, and make sure that people are in the right place.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to go a different direction. How much do integrations matter today, And how much does it matter to work with an organization like yours so that you're doing all of this in a way that's FTC compliant, that is not putting your dealership in harm's way, and that you're frankly not blistering your clients in a way you didn't intend?
Yeah, so it's very important, obviously. You know, we are ISO SOC compliant, and we take data security extraordinarily serious. And with that, integrations are vital. Our stance, and most partners that we work with stance is, we want to integrate with anybody and everybody. The point is to make our dealer partners successful. So integrations are a path to do that. We don't need to be blocking any lanes.
That's great. Gray? What would you say? I'll put the same questions I gave Brian. I mean, you're always in the middle of this. You're in the front edge, you're leading edge of this. You're willing to try. One of the things that I think that you could share with people is you don't have a problem starting, and you have no problem failing, right? And being willing to try something and pushing the envelope.
100.
Is that a big deal?
It is. I think you have to lose the fear of failing, and just as fast as you bring it on, get rid of it, right? And so when I think of the three things that I would do immediately going home, one, run an audit. What are all the technology pieces? Just look at your statement, right? And what's all being put in for tech and marketing and advertising. Then I would look at how can I consolidate, right? And what pieces here, based off what I've seen out there, what's in the industry and what I've learned, how can I consolidate some of this with systems, right? Like this. And then what I would look at is how can I automate? So audit, consolidate, and then automate. And this is just looking at it from a pure kind of a tech perspective or a operational perspective. And then obviously people make a huge difference. But if you can sit there and audit and say, oh my gosh, I've got 28. Now I'm going to consolidate because I found a vendor or a partner that does some AI stuff that can actually consolidate 4 of these line items into one. And then essentially go in there and automate it with said system, right? And so when you do that, you can eliminate some of that cost. You can look at how it can impact your business, and then ultimately the customer experience. Because customers like automation, and they like to be personalized, and that's where you get, when we have too many systems, how many AI systems are going to say, hello, Gray? You're right, 5 in different formats. So which one is the real one?
So, and go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, and that's actually essentially what we're doing with Holman is allowing for consolidation of vendors for the hygiene for one part, and then the second part, delivering those predictions and the data science models the second. So, you know, we view it as part of the engine that powers their CDP. And so it's a way of facilitating and shortening the timeline for a lot of dealer partners if we're already processing your DMS data to then turn it around and deliver it back to you to ingest into your CDP and then activate on. That's really our positioning.
Last question. We got to wrap up. All three of you, same question. Should one of the things that every dealer does right now is to do an audit on their marketing stack and tech stack today?
Yes.
100%, yeah.
Easy question.
And there's gremlins too, right? Like stuff that hits the part statement. You've got OEM activity out there. So it's, Gray, what you describe is 100% the right place to start, but there may be other places that there are rocks to turn over that there's stuff hiding under.
Great. Anybody have any quick questions before we go? I'll answer the first one. I'm a Scorpio. Favorite movie is The Notebook.
Aww.
I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. No, I'm kidding.
Good movie though.
Yeah. Any questions? Any questions for anybody? Pretty good guys, right? I would absolutely reach out to these guys via LinkedIn, connect with them, and because it's pretty cool. I was saying to somebody yesterday, I've had a lot of rough flights lately. And when you're in a flight where you're getting shaken up like a martini, I mean, literally, you're waiting for the rivets to get popped out. You could take great solace in the fact there's a plane 15 minutes in front of you, 15 minutes in front of that, and 15 minutes in front of that. And thankfully, they all landed. Well, most of them. No, they didn't, Matt. Stop it. They landed. And it's the thing here is that when you have people like yourself, that you've already gone down that road. I mean, one of the best things I think you could do is reach out to people like Brian and Andrew and Gray. And of course, you could reach out to me. I could use a friend. I'm kidding.
To watch The Notebook.
You could reach out to me. We could do it together. No, you could reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to help you. I've done 1 million tech audits, CX audits, marketing audits, and things of that nature. But do something. Take these guys' words. At the end of the day, start now. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mastermind team is back there with any questions. We're happy to talk now. Thank you.